Coming up on Cruisin' Collector's Edition, I get the chance to stop in on Barry Penfound of Penfound Designs.
Every car kind of evolves. You have to think about them for a while before their personality really comes forward.
The guys show you a beautiful custom Ford and a Pontiac named like a fighter jet. Plus,
the car shoots flames. We had to have it.
That's this week on Cruisin' Collector's Edition, presented by Blue Line Classics.
Cruisin' Collector's Edition starts now.
Welcome to Cruisin' Collector's Edition.
Today we're going to take a look at a few cars. We got a 1971 Pontiac T37 Le Mans, a nice 1957 Ford Custom 300, and we'll save the best for last, a 1950 Buick Riviera. It's a real flamethrower.
Scott Miller's going to join us today and take a little trip out to Penfound Designs.
Then for a future episode, you'll see this 1979 Pontiac Trans Am 10th Anniversary Edition.
But if you can't wait till then, you can log into our website and check this sweet TA out right now.
Let's get started.
Barry, how long ago did you decide that you wanted to become the guy in the state of Ohio at Penfound Design?
I think every car person, builder, fan starts out when he's 5 or 6 years old. My mother said I could point out cars in a high chair when I was 3 years old, so I think it starts then. What it actually started for me was there was kind of a new revolution for custom cars that started around 2000. A lot of events like Good Guys and NSRA started doing national shows that drew 5,000 or 6,000 cars. And I went to a few of these events and liked some of the things that I was thinking and seeing, and so it seemed like a good idea to try a project and see if people might respond. And so around 2002, I started with the first car, which was the '59 Buick LeSabre. And the idea was to just see if people would respond and like it. And what happened is it ended up being featured in Hot Rod almost immediately in about 12 other magazines here and in Europe and Japan. And so it seemed like people liked it.
For a creative guy like you, you take someone else's design that took several designers and hundreds of hours to put together, and do you ever give yourself a little chuckle and say, all right, I'm gonna twist this up a little bit?
Well, I really like survivor cars as well. There's a '55 Cadillac here that's an original paint car, and I probably wouldn't do anything with it as a custom because it is a survivor. And I think certain cars are so limited in number, so rare, that they shouldn't be modified. A car like a '63 Impala, which is a great car, but there's a lot of them there. And so if you can take that car and do something with it that's even more interesting or that people respond to, that's where the custom side comes from. So I don't have any fights with survivor cars. I think they're fantastic and have some, but the idea that you can take a mass-produced car and do things with it that they couldn't do because you have the time or the ability to do it, that's what makes the custom world interesting.
What was the first award you won?
It wasn't really the first award, but I was at a show where the Buick didn't get an award, but Hot Rod Magazine featured it there. So that was an award. After that, they kind of came pretty regularly. The big things are Boyd Coddington for several years had picks that he did at Good Guys events. I've won those. Rod and Custom Magazine picks are always great. Even sponsor picks who like what you do or find a vehicle that they like, that's good too.
Where did you get some inspiration?
Well, I think when you're growing up, you see that sort of thing. I would go back and visit some of the little books, the little Rod and Customs, to see after I started doing the things that I was doing. But I had a lot of classic car and auto racing background, so I came to the custom side a little later, but it was still rewarding. People say that Chip Foose has a lot of influence on a lot of builders. I think probably Boyd Coddington had as much of an influence as anyone in the modern kind of cleaner look. I try to do things that are a little bit different in that mold, but the idea of a good stance, clean and smooth kind of look, a lot of people are investigating that kind of approach.
What was the turning point where it went from the first car to, well, hey, I can do this? and I'm getting recognition.
Well, actually, the first car, the Buick, started off almost immediately. As soon as it started going to events, it started winning awards and getting magazine features, which I was shocked by and really grateful for.
Is there a concept in your head or a design on paper that when you have a finished product doesn't quite match, but you're okay with it?
Actually, it's the opposite. Every car starts out as a drawing. I do pages of rough pencil sketches, and then I work with 2 or 3 different artists. They're not really custom cars, hot rods. I call them custom concepts because they have that connection, that family connection that you try to keep. So by the time the car is being built, you pretty much know what it's going to look like. But what I do with Skip or Terry is let them do a first rough, usually a second rough, and then a final. So I think in pretty much every case it's been 3 drawings.
A custom car is a passenger vehicle that has been substantially modified in either of the following 2 ways: altering its engine and transmission to improve its performance, or making a personal styling statement, making the car look unlike any car delivered from the factory. Cruise In Collector's Edition, presented by Blue Line Classics, will continue. Welcome back to Cruise In Collector's Edition, presented by Blue Line Classics.
So starting with the Low Sabre, what kind of condition is that car in when you get it?
The original goal for most of these projects is to start out with a very solid, complete car. The GTO is the exception. Excuse me, it needed a lot of attention and ended up taking a lot more time because of that. But the Low Sabre actually started out as a mild custom car. And so when we got it here, the idea was already in place for how it was going to look. And it was a frame-on project, so the car was very nice and solid, and we took the engine out, rebuilt it, and then thankfully, when it was done, I sent some photographs of the finished car to him, and he still liked it, even though it's completely different.
Well, you're kind of insulting somebody's kid a little bit right there, because
Well,
it's a
that's the
mild
thing,
custom, and then you're gonna, yeah, I don't like that. I'm taking that
Right.
off.
You don't know what's going to happen when you get back to that, but he was a very enthusiastic supporter. A lot of the people who've been involved in these cars still ask about them, and I'll update them with new information. So, but that the Buick was the start of all of this activity, and then when the Cadillac came along, it was a chance to kind of explore another area with it. It's a car that can both be a custom car and they're calling them lowriders, but they're not really lowriders. They're just another version of a custom
lower
car.
profile.
But cars like Lincolns and Cadillacs work really well in the world of Dub magazine and Lowrider magazine, and so that car has a large number of modifications. The grille's different, the taillights, the trim, the interior uses 1977 Cadillac cloth. I try to keep the brand loyalty to a car. If it's a Cadillac, we try to keep it Cadillac.
Now you make a car for a client and off it goes. Do you ever think to yourself, boy, I'd really like to have that?
Oh, for sure. The 63 Impala was the first client car for Jack Mattia, and after it had had a really successful year, he had decided that he might like to take it to Barrett Jackson, and so we went out with the car for the week that it was there, and he ended up selling the car. And yeah, when you see it leave, you say, I don't know if I'm ever going to see that again. But it also gives you a challenge to do another car. If he asks for another car, now that that one's sold, it's another chapter. So it's different, and it's like, I don't have kids that go to school, but it's like sending a kid off to school and then they're gone and having a good time. So that's how it works.
So if you were giving advice to a young and up-and-comer, someone that just says, you know what, I want to try this, what would you tell them as a starting point to say, okay, if you want to get into the customization or mild customization or maybe restoration, what would you tell them?
Find a car you like. I get a lot of people asking about cars what car should I invest in? You never know what's going to happen with a car. So buy a car you like, for starters. Just work with ideas, make sketches, clip things out of magazines you like. What I tend to do is, if I find something in a magazine, it's already been done, so I don't want to use it. But it's still an inspiration for you to do what you need to do.
What can people look for in the upcoming tours? You're going to be out and about this summer, different shows.
All of the cars, I think, have debuted at the Detroit Autorama. That's the plan for the 70 Camaro now, although it's going to be tight. But you you tend to do shows where the cars are popular and well received. We've started doing something that's kind of unique where we'll just go into a town where there's a Saturday night or a Sunday night cruise in and either drive the car there or trailer it there and unload it and just see what people think. And it causes a lot of attention because it's a car they've never seen before, and some people will say, wow, I saw that car in a X magazine, what's that doing here? Oh, just having fun, just wanting to see what's going on. So it's a great way to expand that visibility, and I'm always looking for places where the cars can be meeting new friends.
Welcome to the Collector's Showcase. This 1989 Ford Mustang 5.0 GT convertible has only 24,000 miles. Gorgeous all-white original paint with red stripe, this car has been pampered its entire life. It's never seen snow. Convertible top and rear glass window are in excellent condition. The beautiful and clean interior is in nearly perfect condition. If you like Mustangs, this one is worth a look. This beautiful 1969 Plymouth Satellite has 5 coats of clear over metallic green paint. A laser straight body sits atop this rock-solid frame. The 360 engine with the TorqueFlite 904 automatic transmission with Fairbanks stall converter runs really strong. The engine has under 3,000 miles on the build. It runs, drives, stops, and handles outstanding. It's got power steering, has newer tires, and American racing rims. It's very clean, very solid, and it's a proven trophy winner. It truly needs nothing but a new owner. Check out this 1929 Ford Model A Street Rod Coupe that has an easily removable one-piece top. Check out the beautiful teal paint, fiberglass body with removable hood and hood side panels. The frame and undercarriage are extremely clean and beautifully detailed. Truly a get-in, go, and show ride that you can take anywhere. All the cars in our inventory need nothing but new owners. For information on these or any of our cars, give us a call or visit our website, BlueLineClassics.com. The Riddler Award has been presented at the Detroit Autorama since 1964 in honor of the show promoter Don Riddler. Winners are selected as the most outstanding from among cars being shown for the very first time. Cruise In Collector's Edition, presented by Blue Line Classics, returns after this. Now, back to Cruise In Collector's Edition, presented by Blue Line Classics.
This is our 1957 Ford Custom 300. This is a beautiful old school 50s style custom that you'd see back in the 50s and 60s. You don't see a whole lot of these today, that's why we added it to our collection. It's got a gorgeous maroon paint job with gold scallops throughout. It's got pinstriping added to it. You notice there's a lot of custom features on this car. The hood, these are actually Buick portholes. You see on the side of the Buicks from 50s and 60s and early 70s. You can look across the front of the car. It's just loaded with chrome. You'll see it's got a 54 Chevy grille with added scallops to it. Just kind of adds to the customization of the car. You see the dummy spotlights. This was a big add-on back in the 50s. They still do this today. And as you walk down the side of the car, you'll notice there's no door handles. It's got electric poppers on the side of the car. Pop the doors open. The car's got a tuck and rolled pleated interior. You look at the side of the car, I mean, you see all the stainless steel trim going down the whole side. This just sets the cars apart. Today's cars, they don't use this kind of trim. It's just, every year was different. Every year stood apart. A lot of these cars left the factory, they were two-tone, top and bottom. When this one was redone, it's all redone in red, the lacquer red, and then the scallops were added. But it's something you just don't see on cars anymore. They just, the scallops, the pinstriping, the attention to detail, it's just unsurpassed. This car is actually a clone to a car built by the famous builder Dick Jackson of Compton, California. He was a big customizer back in the 50s and 60s, and it was owned by Buddy Alcorn. It was actually featured in 1958 Custom Cars magazine. And like I say, this is an exact clone of the car, which is extremely popular. The engine is a 292 V8. It's got several dress-up items on it. It's got the Offenhauser valve covers, the Offenhauser air cleaner and a coil bracket for it. The reason I added this car to our collection is the nostalgic look. It was customized by a great builder, Buddy Alcorn, back in the 50s, and it's just something that takes you back in time. You know, the 50s and 60s. I didn't grow up then, but I wish I would have. This would have been a car that I would have driven. This is a 1971 Pontiac Le Mans T37. Pontiac's T37 option was a floor shifter, trim package, as well as a finely tuned suspension, which this one has. In '71, this was the last of the great muscle cars they had out there. This car was in competition with the Road Runners, the Cudas, the Challengers. Ford had the Mustang, but GM had the Pontiacs, they had the GTOs, they had the Le Mans. Chevy had the Chevelle, the Corvettes, the Camaros. This one ranked right up there with them. Pontiac left on a high note with this car. Originally it had a 350 Pontiac engine. Currently it houses a 455 Pontiac, which was pretty radically built. This car has just over 430 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque. This car is what car guys consider a resto mod. It was restored, yet modified. Again, you got the addition of the 455 engine and the 4-speed, which wasn't factory, but it's a nice add-on. You got air conditioning, you got the bigger wheels and tires. It's been dropped, slammed. You got the tubular A-arms. This is a car you can get in and just drive anywhere in complete comfort. This '71 Le Mans is actually what guys in the hot rod world consider pro touring. It's got the original style wheels are Rally 2s. This one has a 17-inch aftermarket year one wheel. If you look close, it's still got the PMD in the middle, which is the Pontiac Motor Division. It's just a center cap they put in the wheels. The pro touring cars have become quite popular over the last couple of years. With the pro touring cars, this is something you can get in, you can drive it across the country, and when you get to California, you could run the slalom, you could take it to the drag strip, and then you could drive it home with complete reliability and comfort. And back in the 60s and 70s, NASCAR became a huge hit across America, and many of the manufacturers started adding the spoilers on the back of the car. They weren't very functional, you know, with the cars doing under 100 miles an hour, but it was a nice add-on for appearance. The interior on the car is pretty much stock. It was replaced, and it was done with all aftermarket OEM equipment. It's got all the stock factory gauges. It's even got the factory tack on the hood. The reason this car is special to me, it stands out. The way it looks, the paint, the stance, it's lowered. It's got the bigger wheels, it handles like it's on rails. It's got all the creature comforts of a modern day car. Air conditioning works great. It's got the smooth firewall inside. You got the rumble of a big 462. You hit the gas and you can hear the thing coming.
On April 27, 2009, GM announced it would discontinue the Pontiac brand at the end of 2010. The last Pontiacs were built in December 2009, marking a true end of an era. Cruise In Collector's Edition, presented by Blue Line Classics, returns in a moment. Welcome back to Cruise In Collector's Edition, presented by Blue Line Classics.
What we have here is a classic 1950 Buick Riviera lead sled. This car looks like it came straight out of the 50s with the custom paint. You see the turquoise metal flake, the pinstriping, the satin green along the side. This is how they did it back then. You look at the front grille, all the chrome, it's immaculate on the car. This car, actually the body is almost 100% original. The only modification on the body, you'll notice the headlights are French, which means they're actually recessed. They actually used to come with a ring, the chrome ring that came around there. They took that off and they recessed the whole assembly back into the fenders. Looking around the car, like I say, everything is pretty much bone stock as it left the factory, other than they dropped the car. This car's dropped probably about 3 inches all around. It's got a rear air ride suspension, which means it'll raise or lower the touch of a button. There's a built-in air compressor in the back. The interior was all redone. It's got like a ivory color leather interior. You look at the front end of this car, that's actually all original, like I said, with the exception of the French headlights. These grills were just a masterpiece. They were a work of art back then. And then you can see that, you know, with the metal flake paint, They added the hand pinstriping. There's a few little, hand-painted murals on the car, just to kind of offset it, keep it apart from the other cars. You look at the wheels and tires on the car. They're actually just radial tires, and they have the old school portal walls. You could just slap them on there and take them off if you don't want white walls, you want to go back to black walls. Just something they did back then in the 50s. This is actually the original dashboard in the car. It's been smoothed and worked over quite a bit though. Now it houses some classic instruments, gauges. You got an AM/FM CD player in it. Also, like I said, the addition of the vintage air below it makes it comfortable for you. I think my favorite part of this car is the addition of flamethrowers. It's not a factory option, obviously, but there's nothing cooler than pulling up to a car show, hitting those flamethrowers, seeing a 4 or 5 foot flame shoot out the back. Obviously, it's only approved for off-road use though. The reason we added this car to our collection, I just love the looks of it. I mean, you see the grille, it looks like it's just ready to eat up the pavement. I like the low and slow theme, the American graffiti style cars. It's got the big whites. I mean, just slam down, it just looks like it's ready to go. All I can say is any car that shoots flames like a rocket out the back just commands respect.
Thanks for watching Cruisin' Collector's Edition. We'll see you next time.
If you have a car you'd like to feature on our show, give us a call.
Welcome to Cruisin' Collector's Edition.
Yeah, now you're screwing me up, Jeff.
This is so easy.
I know it is. I did good the first 10 times. But